All right, with all of that, let's get to the agenda this morning. So, yeah, it'll be fine. If you're pending, they'll get to you, I promise. Rose told us last week that she just parked that for a couple of weeks until she could get caught up. And I thought that was a really good idea. Okay, so let's get started. Let me share with you the agenda that I have for today. I'm going to tiptoe into the ZSuite this morning. And so welcome to the You Can Make It webinar. If you're new with us, and I'll talk about new people in just a minute, I want you to understand that this is an interactive learning experience. I do take your questions very, very seriously. It may be that we can't address them this week, but we will address them in future weeks. We don't let any question go unanswered unless it's a highly repetitive question, and then I may just ignore it because like the replay question, we get asked the replay question. I get interrupted repeatedly about the replay question. So yes, there's always a replay. I may be a week behind like I am right now on getting them posted, but there is always a replay opportunity, okay? All right, so it's an interactive learning experience. We strive for mastery here. There's going to be other things that we're going to do. Yes, I don't know about the setup agency webinar. I'm going to cover agency, a little bit of the agency piece today, Ed. So I know that was scheduled for I don't remember what day it was, Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. And they had to put that off for a week. So I'm assuming, and I also saw a post in the group that there was going to be and had a date to register for it. I just don't remember what that was now because it was in a comment someplace. Okay. We covered the why because I believe that's as important as the how. I'll talk about that a lot today as we talk about selling services. And then the next thing is that we want you to support and encourage each other. And most of all, we're going to have fun. Okay. Most of all, we're going to have fun. This is going to be a fun experience. This is not the place to share your frustrations. I'm not support, so we don't do that. So having said that, we're making a slight transition in how we do these webinars. I'm taking more of what I call the open Zoom room concept where their questions are extremely important. We're going to let you ask them in advance, and we'll do that starting in a couple of weeks. I've kind of parked that concept for a little bit based upon the survey results that I got. I want to focus my attention on the 3 things that came out of the survey results, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to give us continuous feedback for the Q&A session in the webinar. Okay. It's kind of modeled after the Ask Me Anything, and I like to do this whole public problem-solving issue where we actually address things in public and we talk about the issues that you run into and we solve them in a group setting. And oftentimes, I don't know how that's going to go, and so you get a chance to see that problem solved in a live fashion, and I think that's a great learning experience. Also puts me on the hot seat, but I like it. I think it's beneficial. The next thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to delete this slide after today, but these are four things taken from Fast Company's 10 things that are required in order to manage a movement. Yeah, if you would do that for me, please, Jerry Lynn, I would appreciate it. I took 4 things out of that have to do with what we're doing right now. And the first one is that in order to create a movement, you focus on the passion rather than the product. And most of us are here because we have a passion for visually creating something. And so we focus on that passion rather than on the product, because if you focus on the product, you become a product chaser. And that doesn't help you at all. Instead, we focus on the passion. Let's make sure that we focus on the passion. So in order to create a movement, you focus on the passion, not just the product. And part of the purpose behind the You Can Make It webinar is to help you to be able to focus on the passion and not just the product. We begin at the beginning, and so that's the reason for the surveys. We want to find out where people are at. We want to find out what it is that they are doing. We want to find out what they need so that we can begin where you are and take you where we need you to go. One of the 7 laws of learning is that you start with the known to go to the unknown. That's another way of saying begin at the beginning. Have inspirational leadership. We take the whole purpose of this is to inspire you. It is not necessarily just to tell you how something works, but instead it's to give you the why behind it so that you might be inspired to do bigger, better, and greater things than what you see done here. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's why we're here. That's why you're here this morning. Those of you who are new, we want to welcome you. We've had 300 people register for this 300 new people register for this webinar in the past 2 weeks. And so obviously because of that, we know that there's going to be a whole bunch of new folks on, and we want to acknowledge the fact that you're here. We do not want to ignore you in the process. And so we will cover a variety of things as we do this. Some may be very applicable to you at the very moment. Other things you may go, why in the world did that get covered? It's because there's 100 people on the webinar, and we're trying to give a variety of experience for everybody who's here. And at some point, that's going to become important to you, I promise. Okay? All right. So welcome to you, the 300 new people who've registered in the past 2 weeks. And seriously, I want you to ask me anything. If you can post it in the group, you're welcome to post in the group. Could this be covered on the webinar or whatever, wherever you want to do that at? Part of the purpose of our surveys is to help give you a platform where you can ask anything. I have someone monitoring the questions right now so that if you ask a question, then we have an opportunity to be able to address that. Okay? Wow, not really sure how to answer that question. What do you mean by new? No, the presentation is not available for download. All right, now you have 3 communication channels. We're going to make these very clear, okay? Just covered that. Just covered how long does it take to get added to the group. So I just covered that. 3 communication channels. Number 1, support. Number 2 is this webinar. Number 3 is the Facebook group. Make sure that everybody understands. Make sure that everybody understands what those 3 are for. Okay, support is if you can't get access, if you want to know how come you've been locked out, if you have a question about billing, if you can't get something loaded that needs to be loaded, if you're missing templates, those questions go to support. They don't belong on the webinar. If you have questions about how does something work, how can I make this look like this? And that's a good question to ask in the webinar. And those are questions that we frequently answer in the webinar. So be sure and ask those when you're in the webinar. We're going to give you other channels where you can ask those questions, or we're going to give you other opportunities to be able to ask those questions so that you can do that, okay? And the next thing is the Facebook group. This is a great place where you can share your designs, share your ideas. Hey, I've got a client that wants to do this. I think it's a dumb idea. Can you give me some insight, or am I missing something? Those are great questions to ask inside of the Facebook group. That's not a good question to ask inside support. So make sure that you understand what those 3 communication channels are and how they work, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Shall we move on? All right, interesting. We're going to run through some things here that have come up in the group. I think this is kind of fun, and I want you to see this, okay? This was an interesting question that Judith asked the other day, and she wanted to duplicate something that looked like this. I loved watching the responses to this. We were able to see the responses that people gave, and there was lots of ideas that were shared. I thought that was kind of cool. We may get a chance to play with that idea just a little bit today. Okay. But this is kind of this is what the Facebook group is for. It is for to ask this kind. I've looked everywhere in the tutorials to make the bottom word kitchen proper so it's readable. Can anyone help? Yeah, you got lots of help, and I thought that was awesome. So that's the reason why I say that make sure you understand what your channels are for and ask the proper questions in the proper channels. Ray shared this with us earlier, and I thought this was really cool. I have seen that picture of that little kid yelling in the microphone so many times, and I've wanted to find a way to use that. Ray found the perfect way to use that. Congratulations, Ray. I just thought this was awesome. And I love the use of the black and white. Just a great job, Ray. I thought this was really, really cool. And again, this is another classic example. We talked about this the other day. What's the trends in designs now? Black on white or white on black are very, very trending at the moment. And so this was a pretty awesome example of that. And I really, really like this. I may have to order one of these just for fun because I really liked it. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I didn't have room to put your name in here, but I did want to give you plenty of credit for this t-shirt because I love the design. It was just pretty awesome. All right. The next thing is that Rose has asked or posted in the group this question, and I'm going to actually grab the URL for that question. So give me a second, and I'm going to grab the URL for that question, and I'm going to post it in the group right now. I had that up, and I think I deleted it. So give me just a second to grab it because I think I want everybody to answer this question. This is our desire to share with you things that can be helpful to you. This is another one of those. We were talking about the platforms earlier and the opportunity to get feedback from our users, from our members, from the people who attend the webinars. These are going to be helpful to us. So I'm going to share this. Give me a second. I'll grab the link. I thought I had it, and I must have deleted the URL. So give me just a second here to find it. Y'all get to listen to me type. That's not good. Does anybody have a link to that to this? Let's see. I should be able to do this. Let's see if I can do this. There, it did copy. All right, I wasn't sure if I had saved that, so it wasn't copyable or not. So good, there it is. Make sure that you take that survey. Don't get sidetracked with it. Pay attention to the webinar. Don't come back in and ask me if there's going to be a replay. Okay, that is a support question, CS. That's a support question. Make sure that you ask that question in support. Okay, it's as simple as clicking on the plus sign, but that's a support question. All right, here is the this is the results of the survey that I took last Friday. And this gigantic section down here is on using Youzigners. This gigantic, almost equally same size section over here is on selling services. And then this side over here is about online graphics. And so we'll talk about those things as we go. We'll put more focus on these three areas because those seem to be the things that people are looking for at the moment. So give me an opportunity to address those as we go. We'll talk about them so that you can utilize the tools that you have and we can make the most of this webinar, okay? Those results were online graphics, selling services, and using Youzigners. I want to talk about selling services now for just a little bit. So this is a place where you probably want to take notes and pay careful attention to if you're interested in selling services. And that's one of the reasons for the ZSuite was to help you to put the tools in place that you need in order to sell services. We're going to focus our attention for the next few minutes on selling services, okay? So let me share some things about selling services that are going to help you. Number one, begin quickly. Begin quickly. And what I mean by that is that if you sell something to somebody and it's due next Wednesday, then you're going to figure that out in a hurry, okay? You're going to figure it out in a hurry. So begin quickly. Now, that's the reason why it's a support question to CS. If you're doing that and it's not working, you need to discuss that with support and not in the webinar. Begin quickly. Do that first. Begin quickly. And then secondly, listen carefully. Listen carefully. I'm amazed at how many times the same question gets asked. We talked about this last week, and that you can go in the group and you can use the search feature in the group and you can find out most of the questions you're going to ask. What happens when I get a black screen? 53 times that's been asked in the group, asked and answered in the group. So listen carefully, which means pay attention to things. When I get the same question over and over again, I realize I'm talking to somebody who isn't paying any attention to me. And I'm wasting my time and effort and energy by talking to them and trying to help them to grow because they're not helping themselves. So if you're going to sell services, listen carefully to the advice that you're being given. Does that make sense to everybody? This seems so ridiculously simple, but it's very, very important. Listen carefully. The next one, stop looking and start doing. There's not a day goes by that my message box doesn't blow up where people are saying, what do you think about this software? What do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Listen, I'm too busy doing what I do to think about somebody else's software. I focus my attention on mastery, not on looking. I focus my attention on doing. Okay? Focus your attention on doing. This is about doing. If you're constantly looking for that thing that does whatever, that spins on its head and stands on its feet, you're not going to get anything accomplished. Okay? That's really important, that you focus your attention on the skills in front of you. Use them to solve the problems that people face. I'm gonna give you an example of that in just a minute. But stop looking, start doing. Every single time that a new product gets launched, the questions in chat will blow up on Friday, asking, why doesn't Youzigners do this? Or how come they don't do that? Or how come you do this? And I see this all the time. This is really, really important. I want to share this with you. Just because it can doesn't mean you need to. And as somebody posted the other day, the only time I ever have needed a vector image is when I'm creating other images. And somebody posted the other day, I deliver all of my logos to all of my clients in vector images. Well, good for you, but they can't post that vector image like it is without converting it to something that's optimized and works right inside of their website. So stop looking, start doing. Makes all the difference in the world if you're going to sell services, because then you're focused. All right. And then finally, grow. Develop your skills, work on things that's going to help you, work on the things that are going to work well for you, and understand that all these things are connected, and there's a reason why we do this. So let's talk about the agency kit that you purchased when you bought the ZSuite, okay? These are the components. I want to focus on two of them today. I want to take a look at the Fiverr business kit down here in this corner, and I want to take a look at the agency site template. And so these are the two areas I'm going to focus a little attention on. The rest of the stuff is just basically simply stuff that's been delivered. We're going to spend the next 2 weeks going through the agency kit and how you can utilize these tools to help you to sell services, okay? So the first one this is the agency site template. You see this agency site template? This is actually an HTML site. And so you'll need to be able to edit the HTML code that's here, okay? That was delivered to you, Jason, when you purchased the ZSuite. If you did not purchase the ZSuite, you don't have it. So But I'm going to talk about this agency site right here for just a moment. I'm going to open it up and I'll show it to you in just a little bit. But I actually loaded this into an agency demo site that I created just for being able to show this to you as an HTML code. So this is an HTML site. How many of you have tried to load the HTML site and have it up and running, or have edited the HTML so that you can have it running? If you have, please put me in the chat box. All right, I'm watching the comments because you know what I'm going to do. Those of you who know me know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back up here. What does this first two words say? Says begin quickly. Now, you may or may not, it doesn't really matter to me. You may or may not decide that you're going to use the HTML site that was provided in this link right here. But it's good to at least know what's there. Okay? And so the reason why I'm doing this today is so that you don't take a look at it and get confused. This is actually what you do is that you go to your FTP manager and you upload that zip file into your drive. You unzip it and then you move that folder into the main drive and it will work. And I will walk you through the steps of that next week. But mostly you need to understand that you've got to edit the HTML code some in order to make it functional, because obviously this phone number up here is not going to work and you've got a whole bunch of other stuff and you don't want people calling you 24/7 and all of that. All right. So you need to take this and make this your own. I worked with a group a few years ago that had about 1,000 people in it. 300 of them got this agency kit, got an agency kit like this. They took it and bought all kinds of URLs and put this stuff out everywhere. And I would go to then they would share the sites inside the group, and I would go to it and it would have this phony phone number up here. It would have somebody else's picture on it. I'm like, did you edit this at all? And you wonder why nothing's happening. At some point, you have to put some work in. Okay, just make sure that you understand. You got to put some work in. So we're gonna cover this. I'll make sure that it's easy for you to understand. Okay. Absolutely, Ray. I couldn't agree more. Ray says, big fish eat small fish. It's better to be a big fish in a little sea than a little fish in a big sea. Absolutely. So I like this. This is a nice format. It's a nice layout. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about how to load that and what to do with it and how to edit it later. Okay. I wanted to share with you my very first gig. This was my very first gig that I did with Youzigners. Okay, so when we talk about selling services, this was my very first gig, and I wanted to share that with you. I had a client that needed to have this book written, 5 Reasons to Start Your Own Business, and he gave me the image that you see on this cover that was in a landscape mode, and it was just like this, just a landscape mode. Didn't have all the other stuff on there. Okay. Yeah, Mama has made an important point, and that is, if you have questions, put the letter Q as instructed there in front of that. That's easier for us to be able to see those. But this was my very first gig, and he gave this to me. I wrote the book for him, and then I put it in a really nice ebook format, and he had this cover that he wanted to use, but it was in landscape mode. Book is in portrait mode. How are you going to take an image that's in landscape mode, turn it into portrait mode? And what I did was I flipped it, created this reflection down below, and sold him the whole package for more than I had paid for all of the tools that it took me to do it with. So from that point on, everything else was gravy. So this was a very, very simple skill. This was a display that was out for people to be able to get their ebook. 5 reasons, and this will tell you when I did this, 5 reasons you can quit your job in 2016. So this was the end of 2015. And this was for launching into 2016. So this was the very first service that I ever sold. Now, would I do it differently today? Probably do a few things differently. Would I do the cover a little bit differently? Probably. But this isn't an evaluation of the work. This is the fact that I began quickly. And you figure it out, you jump in, you start offering services, and you do it, okay? The next thing is, this came up in my live feed this morning, my history from Facebook, and I wanted to remind you all of this because this is the focus today. I did a live feed. This was my live feed from 1 year ago today. 1 year ago today, I did a live feed entitled "As Soon as I Know More," and this is the phrase that holds more people back than anything else. I'll sell this as soon as I know more. I'll get paid for this as soon as I know more. I'll approach people about what I can do as soon as I know more. And so this was my live feed. This was an 8-minute live feed that I did exactly one year ago today, in which I addressed that issue that as soon as I know more holds more people back than anything else. So I thought it was interesting. It pops up in my live feed history this morning from Facebook. Don't let "as soon as I know more" hold you back, because go get it done. That's my point. Just go get it done. Be the big fish in the little sea, as Ray said earlier. I'm going to talk about some of the tools that we have. If you have purchased the ZSuite, then you have if you have purchased the ZSuite, then you have these templates that are available to you. And so anytime we have templates, what we do is a really simple thing that I call templatology. And we take the template apart, figure out what's there and what can we use and what do we want to save and what do we want to take advantage of. And how do I figure out what's in that template that is magical, that made me say, oh, that's a really cool template. I need to figure out how to do that. And so this is, Sid, thank you for bringing that up. Sid says, as soon as I can afford to, also holds people back. Listen, I went out, guess what I sold this for? I sold it for double the cost of my investment in the 2 pieces of software I used to do it with. And I sold it the same time that I bought it. So don't let those kinds of things hold you back. Yes, I look very familiar to me. I recognize that guy every time I look in the mirror. But don't let these things hold you back. They keep you from being able to be successful. Man, customers are everywhere, folks. Joy's asking the question, where did you find your customer? Customers are everywhere. They're literally everywhere. I happen to know this guy, and he said, I'm going to do this event. I said, let's do it upright. I'll write this book for you. We'll put this out. And he said, I'll go to Fiverr and get a cover made. And I said, to heck with that. Let me make it for you. What he didn't know was he'd go to Fiverr and get it done for whatever, 10, 15 bucks or whatever it would cost him to have it done. He would send them a landscape image and they'd go, I can't do this. I can't use this. And so I said, I can do this. I can make that for you, and we'll knock this thing out, and it'll be a winner. I actually went down to the office supply store, bought one of those plastic holders that sits on the tabletop. This was a 8.5 by 11. I slid that inside of it, put a bowl in front of it. We were able to knock this out. Okay. Yes, Ray, you remember when I made that cover. I've reproduced this cover a couple of times. We've done a couple of webinars on how do you do that. It actually, once you understand the process, it takes me less than a minute less than a minute to create this cover. It's not one of those things I spent days on. I did it in less than a minute. And that brings us to the point about selling your services. Okay, if I can sell a service for $5, $10, $15, and it takes me a minute to do it, then you can knock it out. Okay, then just line them up as fast as you can. So there you go. All right. We have a bunch of tools that are available to us. We're going to talk about templateology. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks once we get to the canvas. Okay, is everybody good with that? Let's get to the canvas. Takes me a minute to switch my screen here. So give me a moment. And we'll be right there. All right, let me know in the chat as soon as you see my screen that has the Creative Digital Agency on it. Do you see that? Okay. All right. So this is that agency template that is provided for you in ZSuite. All right. And if you'll look at this, and when I make it smaller, this all moves over here, but you'll have to be able to edit the code to change these pieces up here. Obviously, this is going to take you down to this spot in the it's going to take you down to this spot in the on the page. All right. And you can make your pricing anything that you want it to be. Obviously, these have to go to a buy button. The buy button is not provided for you. You have to provide that for yourself. But the code is here to be able to create this. This is a nice, very simple one-page design that works really, really well. All right, that's the way the whole process works. I kind of think this is pretty cool. You can actually, this is encouraging you, and let's think about this for just a moment. This is encouraging you to have people who become a member, all right? And you give them a certain amount of, a certain amount of creatives for the month, okay? No, this is not a WordPress site. I have asked that they create this as a WordPress template, but for right now it's an HTML template, and it will necessitate that you open up the index file and edit the code. Okay. Does that answer your question, Peter? A lot of people are not familiar with HTML sites because we've had so much stuff done on WordPress the last few years. And if you've used WordPress in the last few months, you're pulling your hair out, okay? I promise you, you're pulling your hair out. But yes, this is the design of the site, kind of nice site. But again, you've got to put all of your stuff in here so that it goes someplace that actually allows you to capture the events. Don't just put the site up and not know what to do, okay? No, not exactly, John, because WordPress still operates off of a template, and that theme, or off of a theme, and that theme will get in the way. Okay. All right. I'll give you more instruction about this next week. I'm hoping that they will also have a WordPress version of this. Okay. But I wanted you to see this is what it is. Don't miss this. This is this part right here, this agency site template, and I don't want you to miss that. Okay, very important that you understand what this is and at least get a chance to look at what the site looks like. Okay, helps you a lot to know what an effective site looks like, because effective sites have changed a lot. You know, we're now at kind of that flat image kind of thing. We don't have shadows and special things. People are more attracted to a different kind of a design today. All right. So it's good for you to be able to see that and for me to be able to share that with you so you get a chance to see what this looks like. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, there's several HTML editors that make that fairly easy for you. Some for like I said, I'm gonna go through this next week. I'll talk to you a little bit about how to modify your code and do all of that. It's just a little hard to do that when you have other stuff that has to be covered in the course of the day. But we'll make sure that you get up to speed on that next week, and maybe we'll have a WordPress version of the site as well, which would be very helpful because a lot of people are very familiar with the with WordPress, and this shouldn't be too difficult to tweak and move into that. So we'll find out. Okay. Seriously, did you just post something about Craigslist? All right, let's talk about Templatology for a minute. And I share with you some things about Templatology, okay? This is a template. This came from, let me duplicate this and I'll show you. This actually came from one of the templates that I had up just a minute ago. And I'm going to go back out here and show you this template. And it's this template right here, okay? So this is part of that package. This is part of the package that you got when you, which came with your ZSuite presentation, okay? So this is included in that package, this Facebook ad design services, okay? So what I want you to see here is I want you to look at how this was put together. This is basic 101 templatology. This is how you figure out, and again, keep in mind that the designs are becoming simpler, not more complex. So, but you have a chance to be able to take these pieces apart and figure out where they came from. And there's some things that you can do here. For example, when I look at this, I realize I don't want to keep that because Google Plus is basically gone. So I want to get rid of that, right? So but I see that that's a separate card in the deck. And because it's a separate card in the deck, I can delete it and nobody will be none the wiser, correct? So I'm taking the template apart. I like this font right here. To be honest with you, I've not seen this font before. So I saw it on I saw it when we were out here. I went, well, that's a very attractive looking font. So what I did was I loaded it up here, clicked on the font, went up here, and it says League Spartan. I have not seen that font before. All right. Have any of you seen that font before? I have not ever seen that font before. I like it. It's nice, clean font. I like it a lot. I like the style, I like the boldness of it. I think it's an appealing font. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this thing apart. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. So now I've duplicated this. And what was the name of it again? We called it League Spartan, right? So I'm going to grab this. Move this out of the way, start here at the end, and I'm going to see what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually name it this. and I'm going to save it. But because the background over here is white, I don't want to save it in white. What I want to do instead is I want to save it in a different color, so it makes it easy for me to find. And now I can click here and I can save it. Go over here and I have it saved right here with the font style that it is. All right, does that make sense to everybody? I'm taking the template apart. I agree, Mary. I like the spacing of the lettering. It's just a really, really neat font. When you need something that's kind of bold, that's what you do. So what I did was I simply duplicated this, put the name of the font there so I can remember it. And then I have it saved over here in my saved fonts. Do y'all have a hard time seeing the save button? When you click on this, the save button's right here. The universal icon for save is this little old 3.5 floppy disk. And it was never floppy, it was hard. All right, but that's a great way. You take the template apart. You find things that you like, okay? I actually think these are pretty cool cards. And so I have 4 of them here. I deleted the Google Plus. I have these 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of them. I'm going to click on this with my Shift key held down. I'm going to click right here with the Shift key held down, and I'm going to click right here with the Shift key held down, and now I've grouped them. And as a group, I can save that group. Again, use the universal icon. Can you all see that on the side of my screen? So I have them saved. I'm going to save that group. Now, I have these saved right here under groups. I have them right here so that I can use them in the future. Now, I may only want one of them, and that's okay. But if I do that, then I've got them saved. I don't have this anywhere. These are not available in my vector images over here. They're not available in my integrations. And so I've taken them from a template and I've saved them so that I can use them on other designs. Does that make sense to everybody? This is where I take the template and I beat it up. I figure out what's there. And so I take the pieces apart, and I may want to keep the pieces. In this case, I really like that font. So I want to save it. And for me, I saved it in a dark red, made it easy to see. But I saved it. So now I have it, okay? I have all 4 of these cards if I want to use them again. Guess which one I use a lot? Anybody want to guess which one I use a lot? What did I do to group the cards? You simply click on the first one. They're all grouped together right now. Ungroup them now. You click on the first one, and you have to click on the ones on the top. So I click on the ones on the top. So I'm on the top of the stack. Also, you can see how these were put together, okay? Started with this YouTube icon first. They started with that YouTube card first, all right? This is the YouTube icon. Then added this one, then added this one, and it went behind, then added this one, and it's on the top. They clustered them together like that. So I now know how they put those pieces together. At first look, I look at this and I think, well, maybe this is a hole right here. Well, it's not a hole. It was originally 5 separate pieces. Now, where did I get the font? The font came with the template. The font was loaded in the template, but this is a Youzigners font. All right. It just happens to be a font I'd never seen before, but I really liked, and it caught my attention as I was looking at the card, as I was looking at the template deck here. This caught my attention. I like that. It stands out. I'm looking at all the rest of these. There's only one that really stands out, and it's this one right here. Because it stands out, it caught my attention. I wanted to use it. Okay, Peter, we talk about the adding more fonts all the time, and I'm going to address it again because it's really, really important. So you get a chance to ask this question one time? I'm just being funny. Okay, this is it right here. If I add a font, the way I do that is I have to add it to my computer, and it gets loaded down here as a system font. All right, and you'll see right here it says system fonts. These are the fonts that are in my computer. If I have fonts loaded on my computer, then I'm very limited on what I can do with them. Okay? Very limited on what I can do with them. I'm going to add something up here. I'm going to take this, make this a color that you can see. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Okay? So if I go down here and I grab a system font, I bought this for a customer of mine one time. I rarely do this, but I did it in his case because it was his logo and we needed to reproduce it. And I do that with it. All right. Then I cannot do anything other than change the size of it. That's all I can do. With these fonts here, I can do this. I can rotate them. I can do a lot of things with this font. Okay. But I'm very limited on what I can do here. And I'm really better off to use this tool to change the size than I am to grab this corner because it won't save it that way. Does that make sense to everybody? So, if at all possible, make sure that the fonts that you use are Youzigners system fonts. Quit giving yourself headaches. Don't give yourself a headache by saying, oh, I got this special font. This is just the most special font on the planet. Nobody's ever had a font this cool. Yeah, and there's a reason. Okay, so just make sure. Use the fonts that are built into Youzigners and you'll be much happier. You'll save yourself a ton of headaches. Okay? No, the Youzigners fonts, the way you tell what's a Youzigners font is you go down here, it is everything that is above this system fonts right here. All of these up here are all Youzigners fonts. That's where you find them at, okay? Then if I want to save them, they get saved over here, in this side over here. And you can tell in this demo account that I have, I've done this tons of times to show you how to save these over here. But this was a cool font. I wanted to keep it. I'll probably use it in future designs. And so I thought it was a great thing to be able to save and hang on to. All right. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want to figure out how to create this sexy background over here, right? So I click on the background, go over here to the background, and I see that they've done this gradient from blue to this, whatever color that is, because guys only see 5 colors. But whatever color this is, that's the color that they've done. And then they've changed the angle here and made the angle run like this. Okay? Now, what I've done is I've taken the template apart to figure out what was done to make that template look the way it does. And now I have armed myself with some helpful information. I can do this over and over and over again. I can take a look at how complicated was this template? What were the things that were done to make this design look the way that it did? And so on. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you see why I call this templatology? You're learning from the templates. Now let's do this, okay? I've got these saved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all these together again. I'm going to delete the whole group, okay? All right, I'll move that. Move this out of the way. Look at that. So now I've grouped them together, and I'm going to delete them. I'm going to go back over here to my graphics. I'm going to grab this group. I'm going to pull them back in. Now, you'll notice I have all 4 of them. But maybe I'll only want the YouTube design. I have a look that I do for every YouTube design. All right. And I'm going to delete this and show you what the look is I use for every YouTube design. I'm going to ungroup these now, and I'm going to slowly delete all of these and just save this video YouTube icon. Okay. And what I always do in all of my, and we're going to go back over here. We're now going to make this a video splash page, sometimes referred to as a thumbnail, but I call it a splash page. I'm an old school guy. That's what I was taught. So that's what I do. All right. So for my video splash pages, I always do the same thing. I make this color right here. Now, the reason why I do that is because this shows up really well on the black. All right. And then I do the following things. Okay. I really like this color right here on top of the black. Y'all with me? And then I have an upload that I always use. I have to go down and find, I got all kinds of stuff I've dumped in here over the last couple of weeks just because I was working on a project. And somebody's going to say, well, wouldn't it be really cool? Oh, here we go. This was the picture. This was the image that was given to me to create the book cover out of. Okay. It was there, so I thought I'd throw it up here to show you. All right. And then I always throw a picture of myself over in the corner. And I usually remove the background from that. And for those of you who are brand new, this is how you remove the background. This would not be the picture that I would use. But this is how you remove the background. Click on that eraser tool that was right there. Click right here. And I simply just make sure that I've covered everything here and that it doesn't get confused with the background that I want to remove. Oh, got a little carried away. That's what happens when your skin is the same color as a brick. Which reminds me of a Jethro Tull song, but we'll avoid that at the moment. All right. Just a little cleanup here. And yes, I have a funky looking earlobe, so that always comes out like that. Save that. All right. I usually use a different picture facing this way right here. But then I have my YouTube thumbnail. Let's take a look at it. I've got this little preview bar right here. This is what it's going to look like in YouTube. Now you can see the reason why I use the dark background with the red button and the yellow font. Does that make sense? I don't want this to fade into, I don't want my thumbnail to fade into, I want it to stand out from. So I'll put that together like that. Now, what I can do is I can save this. While we're here, we're going to do this. I'm going to save this now. I'm going to save it as a splash template. How did I lose my chat? I've lost the chat, folks. Hang on, I'll be right back. There we go. We can't, we cannot do that with Youzigners. There's a way to do it. It's kind of complicated. It's convoluted. It's not as easy as it sounds. That's a really good way to learn, Dorn, by the way. If you do the same things I'm doing while I'm doing them, it's amazing how much you learn in the process of that. So now we're going to go back out here to the templates and see if I can just do this. And I want you to see something, because now I can take this design that I just saved right here, and I can save it as a template. Are you with me? Go back to the templates, click on my templates, and I have that splash template right here. Now I can come back over here and I can use it every time because I've saved it as a template. Now it has everything, okay? It has this yellow color that I like right here. It has this, and it has a picture that I wouldn't use, but it has a picture. But you understand what I'm doing. I've now saved it as a template. I can use it over and over and over again. And I did that in 3 minutes, including removing the background. And that brings us to the top of the next hour, which is our clue to leave. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful, safe weekend. I look forward to talking to you next Friday, and I will bring to you the things that we can do with the ZSuite template. Okay. Thank you for joining me on this Friday, taking your time to be here, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday.